Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dale Menyo. Well, later today, USDA will release two major reports out to the market. The Prospective Planning Report and the Quarterly Grain Stocks Report will serve to give a very early look into production potential for the spring planted crops, while also accounting for inventory still on hand from 2024. Perhaps no USDA release garners more speculation than the annual Prospective Planning Report. And as a result, the day also carries an increased chance of volatile price action. Over the past 5 releases, nearby corn futures have averaged 12-cent moves higher the day of the release, including a 16-cent gain following last year's bullish surprise, which estimated corn acreage about 2 million acres lower than the average trade guess. For soybeans, the report has proven even more volatile, with a 72-cent gain following 2021's report and a 50-cent drop following 2022's report. There is certainly historical correlation between a ratio smaller than 2.4 to 2.5 between November soybeans and December corn futures, and a shift away from soybean acres to corn acres. But not being able to achieve above a 65% or so explanation in the variation of acres year to year from one price ratio alone, this suggests there are many more factors at play, most of which likely cannot be explained by statistical models and lie in the hands of the weather through spring and those operating the planters. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
As you invest your time and resources into another planting season, the Ohio Soybean Council is right there with you, investing in the future of your farm. Your takeoff contribution helps the Ohio Soybean Council drive demand for every bushel of beans grown right here in Ohio. Whether it's through new product innovations or expanding into new markets, they work on your behalf to ensure a profitable future. Because the only thing better than growing soybeans is selling soybeans. Visit soyohio.org to see all the ways the Ohio Soybean Council is invested in your future. That's soyohio.org.
And thanks, Ryan. The April forecast from DTN is calling for well below normal rainfall for the tail end of Brazil's wet season. Some improvements were made in a few areas, including east central areas that were well below normal in rainfall and soil moisture. But the overall lack of deep soil moisture remains a concern for the Safranha corn crop. Corn is rapidly developing, with early planted corn getting into pollination over the next couple weeks. Some of the later planted corn will take until late April or possibly even early May. Producers count on an active wet season to build soil moisture to protect corn from damage during pollination, largely relying on the buildup soil moisture for kernel filling. In most years, this is accomplished and a decent corn crop is harvested from the country. Yields may not stack up to those in the U.S., but are enough to make producing corn a viable second season. And the Office of U.S. Trade Representative held hearings this past week on a proposal to impose a service fee for each U.S. port of call on Chinese-operated ships, or a per-ton service fee applied to the ship's carrying capacity. The U.S. Meat Export Federation submitted comment supporting the overall intent of strengthening the U.S. shipbuilding industry, but pointing out that the proposed fees could price some products like variety meats out of the marketplace and could dramatically reduce port calls in key locations, such as the Port of Oakland, which is the largest outlet for waterborne red meat exports. It is a key gateway for chilled meat shipments to Asian markets. According to the U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Hallstrom, it would take years for the U.S. shipbuilding industry to rebuild to meet the needs of U.S. agriculture and other exporters. Under the port fee proposal, options for those exporters would be very limited while that rebuilding takes place. U.S. Meat Export Federation joined more than 300 agriculture and business associations in submitting a letter to USTR outlining those concerns. The Ohio total hog and pig inventory on March 1 was estimated at 2.6 million head, up 100,000 head from a year ago. That according to Ben Torrance, state statistician at USDA's NAS Ohio field office. Breeding hog inventory at 190,000 head was up 6% from last March. Now, the market hog inventory in Ohio was 2.41 million head, up 4% from last year. The average pig safe per litter for the December to February quarter was 11.2 compared to 11.45 from the same period last year. The U.S. inventory of hogs and pigs on March 1 was 74.5 million head. This was down slightly from March 1 of 24 and down 1% from December of 24. Breeding inventory at 5.98 million head was down 1% from last year and down slightly from the previous quarter. Market hog inventory at 68.5 million head was down slightly from last year and down 1% from last quarter. The December 24 to February 25 pig crop was 33.7 million head, down slightly from last year. Sows farrowing during this period totaled 2.89 million head, down 1% from the previous year, and the sows farrowed during this quarter represented 48% of the breeding herd. The average pig safe per litter nationwide was 11.65 for December 2024 through February of 25 period, compared to 11.53 last year. United States hog producers intend to have 2.91 million sows farrowed during the March to May 25 quarter, down slightly from the actual farrowings during the same period 1 year earlier, and down 1% from the same period 2 years earlier. Stay tuned, back with more after this. Soybeans are a game changer for Ohio's pork industry. Pigs thrive on soybeans' perfect blend of protein and energy, helping hogs nationwide devour the equivalent of 292 million bushels of soybean meal annually. Ohio is number 7 in pork production, contributing to the billions of pounds of pork enjoyed by families across the nation each year. From sizzling bacon to barbecued ribs, soybeans power the farms that feed families. Brought to you by Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Every time you use biodiesel, you're fueling more than your engine. You're investing in Ohio's farmers, reducing emissions and creating cleaner air for all of us. Did you know biodiesel adds 13% in value to every bushel of soybeans grown? That's good for farms, good for families, and good for the future. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org.
Let's check in with Joe Everett as he gets an update from the recently held Commodity Classic about getting those seeds off to a quick start and feeding the zone.
Joining me is Tim Hennessy. He is the strategic grower lead at Phycoterra, and we were talking about some of the different things that you guys offer. Can you elaborate on those?
Certainly, we work with a microalgae product. Our product is a base microalgae, and our product actually has benefits as a seed treatment product, as a foliar product from a health perspective, and also soil as a health perspective, and then residue management as well, and also in manure. We have some benefits there too. The basic concept of our product is preferred food source for the bacteria and fungi in the soil or on the plant. And basically what we do is we feed that bacteria a superfood source, and basically we feed the largest structure of bacteria and fungi and the most diverse structure of bacteria and fungi. And so being a non-living product, we're not a biological that you're adding back to the soil as a live product. We're basically a preferred food source that's helping with that.
And within that, what are some of the products that you guys are making?
Yeah, Phycoterra is the base product of all of our products. We have a seed treatment product, and the benefit of the seed treatment is you're treating about 1/10 of an inch around the seed. You're increasing that microbial activity significantly. That helps the seed soften and germinate. It also gives that seed a fresh start into active feeding because there's strong microbial activity there. Will increase germination, will actually increase consistency of stand. Our probably top-selling product is our soil product. It's been around the longest, and we're basically feeding the existing bacteria and fungi in the soil. And that bacteria and fungi are very beneficial in mineralizing nutrients, making them available to the plant. We also have long-term benefits in soil structure, so we'll help with water holding capacity, as well as in heavy clay soils. We'll actually help create aggregates in the soil, and basically that allows for better drainage. Then we move into our foliar product, and our foliar product is applied R3 to R5 on soybeans, R1 to R2 on corn, basically fungicide timing on both corn and soybeans. Basically, when we feed that bacteria and fungi, they begin to activate on that leaf surface. They create a sheath on the leaf, if you will, It allows for protection of the plant, allows it to continue to breathe, go through photosynthetic phases, those type of things. Continue to focus on filling the ear or the pod or on other crops, the food of the crop versus stress. So it's helping mitigate stress and allowing the plant to focus on what it needs to.
I've been visiting with Tim Hennessy, Strategic Grower Lead at Phycoterra.
And thanks, Joe. You can find out more of Joe and Tim's conversation on our website at ohioagnet.com. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For information on marketing soybeans to LDC, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished out the week on Friday on a mixed note. We were a little bit stronger on beans. Corn was mixed, higher old crop, slightly lower new crop. And then the wheat markets were down with double-digit losses in Kansas City. Lots to talk about from last week, but honestly, there's going to be more to talk about today. Today is the USDA data dump that everybody points to at the end of the first quarter. We've got the prospective plantings report, and those thoughts have been really running wild in the marketplace the past week or so. And we've also got quarterly grain stocks. Let's talk a little bit about last Friday. Better weather in the hard red winter wheat belt, or at least the perception of better weather, kind of took some wheat premium off of the table, especially ahead of this report. Chicago wheat, soft wheat there, and the Minneapolis hard wheat did not follow suit. Corn and soybeans, it was all about the acreage battle last week. I heard some absolutely stupid numbers being tossed about for corn acreage that could come out today. The highest I heard, 96.5. Now, I guess never say never. I go back to that year where the prospective plantings report said one thing, and then when we got to the June 30th acreage report, there was a lot of prevent plant that triggered corn and made it so that the corn planted acres number was supposed to be super large, super huge. But we're not talking about that here. I've been talking to seed dealers off and on for the past couple of weeks, and there's not one out there at all that tells me we're seeing monumental, huge changes in rotation here. That leads me to say, if we do see a surprise to the upside on corn acres, they're coming in a place like North Dakota, where there really shouldn't be a large increase in corn acres anyway. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but that's the talking point here. I just don't think a large majority of rotation-based agriculture is going to be switching to corn. But we'll get that all sorted out here today on the Prospective Plantings Report. Hits at midday. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, ahead of tomorrow's USDA planting intentions report, which could be a big one. So could the grain side of things. But for now, May corn down 1 3/4 at $4.51.5. December new crop down 1 1/2 at $4.41. Carried out to March, and your $4.54 down 1 1/2. Beans have snuck in with 2 months slightly higher. May up 1/2 at $10.23.5. November new crop had been lower, now up 1/4 cent at $10.29 The January beans are down 1 1/2 at $10.37 3/4. July wheat down 1 penny at $5.41 3/4. September down 3/4 at $5.58.5. If you carried it all the way to December, you're down 3/4, but at $5.82 3/4. In livestock, on Friday, April cattle closed $208.82, down 72. June, $204.85, down 95. And the August was off 80 cents at $201 even. April lean hogs down 32 at 86.70. May, 88.47, down 37. And June, $95.77, down 40 cents. The May feeder cattle down $1.35 at $285.17. August, $289.67, down 97 cents. And September feeder cattle down 80 cents at $288.47. That's the way things look in the market. Again, we'll see what the numbers look like, and we'll see what the numbers look like from the Hogs and Pig report on Friday. We'll see the first action there after the markets open later this morning. So we'll keep an eye on a couple different things in our trade today. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Dale Minio. This is the Ohio AgNet.